When my deployment ended, I imagined 1,000 versions of my return. In every one of them, Abigail was waiting beyond the arrival gates, smiling, waving, running toward me like she used to when I came home from training. That picture kept me alive in places where hope felt optional. But when I finally stepped into the terminal, duffel bag on my shoulder, there was only noise and strangers. No Abigail. No message. No explanation. I told myself she was late. Traffic. An emergency. Anything but the truth. I grabbed a cab and stared out the window the whole ride, convincing myself that in 10 minutes everything would make sense again. The building looked the same when I arrived. Same peeling paint. Same flickering hallway light. But the moment I unlocked the door, I knew something was wrong. I heard crying, deep, broken sobs, coming from the bathroom. I dropped my bag and walked down the hall, my heart pounding harder than it ever had overseas. I knocked once, then again. When the door finally opened, Abigail stood there trembling, her face streaked with tears. In her hand was a small plastic stick. 2 unmistakable lines. Time slowed. My ears rang. I couldn't breathe. She begged me to say something, anything. I stared at the test like it might vanish if I looked long enough. The first words I managed to force out were simple and devastating. "How far along?" "1 month," she whispered. The math crushed me. 1 month ago, I had been half a world away, crouched behind cover, watching friends bleed into dust. 1 month ago, the only thing that kept me moving was the thought of her. I saw her in the stars, heard her voice telling me not to quit. I promised myself I'd survive, for us. And while I was fighting to come home, she was building a future with someone else. Rage hit me fast and hot. I asked who the father was. When she said a name I didn't recognize, something inside me snapped. Shouted. I don't remember what I said. Only the sound of my own voice echoing off the walls. She tried to explain, but I couldn't hear her over the roaring in my head. I left the bathroom and slammed the door so hard the wood split. The apartment became a blur of noise and destruction. Glass shattering, furniture overturned, my hands shaking as reality collapsed around me. When I finally stopped, I was standing alone in a wrecked living room, breathing like I'd just run for my life. I knew then I had to leave. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I was terrified of what I might become if I stayed. The next day, the apartment was empty. Abigail was gone. All she left behind was a note saying she was afraid and needed to disappear. Understood. Even in my pain I understood. But understanding didn't stop the silence from swallowing me whole. I thought losing her that day was the end of my story, but it was only the beginning of something far darker. Abigail wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my history, my anchor, the only family I had left. Years earlier, my parents and my brother had died in a single car accident. One night erased my entire world. I was barely holding myself together when Abigail stepped in and refused to let me fall apart. She sat with me through nightmares, helped me breathe through panic, reminded me that I was still alive when I wanted to disappear. We had been kids when we met, 18 and reckless, convinced love was enough to beat the odds. We planned college together, shared dreams over cheap coffee. Then everything changed when her parents found out she was bisexual. They called it a sin, sickness, and then they kicked her out. She had nowhere to go. I sold everything I owned, took any job I could find. When it still wasn't enough, I enlisted. Not for glory, not for pride, for stability. Was. So when she left that note behind, it felt like every sacrifice I'd ever made had been erased in a single sentence. I tried to cope, failed. Days blurred into weeks. I found comfort at the bottom of bottles, telling myself numb was better than broken. The PTSD I'd kept under control overseas came roaring back. Nightmares. But, shaking hands, I stopped caring whether I woke up the next morning. If it weren't for Mark, I don't know how it would have ended. He found me one night slumped over a bar, surrounded by empties. He didn't judge me, didn't lecture. He just took me home and sat with me through the worst of it. Through the withdrawals. Through the nights I thought I was losing my mind. Recovery wasn't heroic. It was ugly and slow. But eventually routine replaced chaos. I started running again, sleeping a little, breathing. Then months later I saw her. The mall. Outside a baby store. Abigail looked like a shadow of the woman I loved. Exhausted. Hello. The man beside her held her hand like it was something he owned. He walked ahead of her, pulling her through the crowd. Eyes met. For a split second, I saw something in hers that haunted me. Fear. That look followed me home, and hours later it would pull me straight back into her life. That night I couldn't sleep. I ran until my lungs burned, trying to outrun the image of Abigail being dragged through that mall. When I got back, my phone lit up. Name. The message was long. Apologetic. She said she was sorry, for the betrayal, for leaving, for choosing wrong. She admitted she wasn't happy, that she felt trapped, that she wished things had been different. I told her I forgave her. A few days later we met at a quiet cafe. The moment she saw me, she broke down. Between sobs, she told me about her life, about the control, the fear, the regret. She said she thought she was protecting me by leaving, but instead she'd walked into a nightmare. She asked if we could be together again. Said no. Not because I didn't love her, but because some things can't be rebuilt. I told her I'd help her though. Not as a partner. As someone who once promised to protect her. I started digging. Carefully. Quietly. The man, Darren, wasn't hard to find. Social media tells people more than they realize. Habits. Patterns. Routines. One night, I followed him from a distance. The old instincts kicked in. Observation. Patience. Control. When the opportunity finally came, I acted. I didn't feel triumphant afterward. I felt empty. But I knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't hurt her again. Abigail never contacted me after that. And maybe that was for the best. I thought closure would bring peace. But healing had its own price. Life didn't magically improve after that night. The nightmares stayed. The memories lingered. But something inside me settled. Focused on recovery. On rebuilding. Mark stayed close. Therapy helped. So did discipline. I learned how to carry the pain instead of letting it carry me. Sometimes I wondered where Abigail ended up. Whether she was safe. Whether she ever thought of me. I didn't look for answers. Some questions are better left alone. Just when I thought I'd accepted my past, a single moment would challenge everything I believed about my future. Still standing. One afternoon I walked through a park and saw a couple laughing with their child. For a moment sadness hit me. Then something else followed, hope. I had survived war. Betrayal. Myself. That had to count for something. I wasn't whole. But I was standing. And for now that was enough. Survival was never the goal. Finding peace is the real battle.